society and as being a Christian, we've all heard this kind of thing. And maybe we've even felt it at times. And the thing I think we've heard a lot is people outside of the church saying, what's even the point of being a Christian? What's the point of going to church? You know, when I see Christians, they're all the same. They're sinners just like you and me. All the Christians are just hypocrites. And they're full of themselves and they judge other people. What's the point? I think when we hear people say stuff like this, it probably always gives us pause. And for me, I wonder, how do we respond to this claim that we're hypocrites, that we ourselves are sinners? How do we answer these people? I think many times when Christians have heard this, we've gotten defensive and said things like, I'm a God-fearing Christian. I follow the Bible. I know what God has told me to do. You're the one who is not a Christian. You don't have the truth in you. But I think the reading from Romans, and also the gospel reading, reminds us of a truth that we don't always remember. When people are coming at us and saying, why are you a Christian? Everyone around you who's Christian is still a sinner. We have to remember that we don't turn to God and go to church because we are righteous. We turn to God because we are sinners. There's a guy named Donald Miller who writes kind of commentaries just about his thoughts on his faith. And he has a book called Cool Like Jazz. And in the book, me and Stephanie read it, there's an interesting story about how he went to a grocery store. And he was standing in line at the checkout aisle. And in front of him was a woman who was buying some food. And after her food had been checked out, the cashier said, okay, how are you going to pay for this? And the woman kind of looks at the ground and says, food stamps. And he said he noticed in himself and he noticed in all the people around him, everyone kind of put their eyes to the ground, and everyone, you could tell, including himself, felt ashamed for her. And she probably felt ashamed about it too. Why were they ashamed? Because she had to rely on someone else. Because she could not take care of herself, and she had to rely on others and food stamps to get what she needed. I think many of us have been taught to feel guilty about having to rely on something outside of ourselves and relying on others. We're taught that we need to go out there and get the job done, that if you want something done right, you should do it yourself. But I wonder when we hear Paul talk about the gospel, if this is really the message God has for us, to be self-reliant all the time. In Romans, Paul says, for I am not ashamed of the gospel. It is the power of God for salvation to everyone who has faith. For God has revealed through faith for faith that the one who is righteous will live by faith. And he goes on to say that all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. This passage in Romans is one of the main passages in the Bible that talks about grace. And as we've all heard, I think, the words before, but don't always remember, that grace is something we do not earn. And yet in society, we're taught that we have to earn everything, and that everything we have is based on hard work. C.S. Lewis said that this belief in self-reliance, and that we can do everything ourselves, and that everything we have we own through our hard work, is fundamentally pride. And C.S. Lewis said that pride is the fundamental sin of them all. Because pride is the thing that makes us say, we don't need God, we can take care of it on our own. I don't need someone directing my life, I can direct it by myself. But I think if we think about our lives closely and start looking back to when we were young and all the way going through to today, we'll realize that relying on others has been how we've survived our whole lives. Think about it. Did you create the first breath that you breathed when you were a baby? Did you nurse yourself when you were an infant? Did you teach yourself to read at school? Did you earn the right to live in America, where you're free and safe? Did you raise yourself when you were a child? Did you grow all the food that you're going to eat later today? I think the answer to all these questions is no. We've been given gifts that we haven't always earned, that we've done nothing to work on to get, but they've just been gifts to us. And I think one of the most important messages of the gospel is God to come and tell us, get over yourself. God loves us for sure, but that doesn't mean that we're perfect. And just because we're Christians and we come to church does not mean that we have all the answers and that we are sinless, but rather the reason we're here is because we're sinful and we realize we have problems. The gospel says to build our lives on a firm foundation. Earlier we read how Jesus is saying we need to not build our house on things like sand, on things that are not stable, but we need to build it on the rock of Jesus Christ. I wonder if sometimes we try to build our lives on things that are less firm than Jesus. We try to build it on our country, on our race, on our gender, on our politics, on ourselves. We build all of